Hey everybody, welcome to our Creativebug Daily, and this is our crochet, what's the title of it? The Crochet a Day Sampler with Twinkie Chan, and this is part 2. So we have now successfully and officially completed the Crochet 30-Day Challenge, and I'm excited that I finished. I have a finished product. Well, it's blocking right now, so it's still not totally finished. I haven't I assembled my squares, into the sampler like Twinkie does at the end, and then you can hang it on the wall. So I'm looking forward to having that.
I've also seamed mine up and I put fringe on the bottom, so I'm just gonna hold mine up.
Yes.
Oh, yay! Oh my gosh, I love it.
Here's mine.
I love all your colors.
I know.
My crazy fringe.
Yeah.
My partner was like, I don't like the fringe, but it fits. It's very you. And I was like, this was the most extra thing that I could think of to do, was just to put.
I think it needs it.
I like it. I think it looks really good. But yeah, this was to be full. This was one of the hardest challenges I think for me that we've done so far. This took me an insane amount of time, more than any of the other challenges. I lost a lot of time to this, but it was also because I think I made the project a lot more complicated because I used a finer weight yarn, and I was doing a lot of color changes. So I think if I would have used the yarn that she had suggested and not done a lot of the color changes, it would have gone faster for me. But I did have fun with the challenge of customizing it to what I had. Because I didn't want to buy any new supplies. I wanted to only use what I had. So I am really happy with the finished product. There were, especially the later squares, I got real frustrated with some of them, because we talked about in our first video how sometimes the camera angle of where she is was not helpful to figure out where exactly you need to put your hook, or how precisely to work the specific stitch. The ones that I had the hardest time with this were the star stitch and herringbone.
Herringbone was hard.
Yeah. Herringbone was so hard. But once I got the rhythm of it, it's really lovely. And I do really like it.
It's a slow stitch to work. And I feel like getting into some of these stitches towards the end, I mean, I'm fairly accomplished with crochet and also doing lots of different stitches. And some of these were really, really challenging. I guess I just wonder, and it'll be interesting to hear from you, Lucy, because you're fairly new to crochet. As a beginner, I just feel like some of these stitches were a bit more challenging than was revealed. I don't know. They're not ones I would have chose. Yeah. I mean, there are, like I said, over 200 crochet stitches. I just think some of the ones that are in this video are you better have some patience, because there's so
and there were out. I didn't actually finish it because there were a couple reasons. I didn't have as much time as I thought to finish it. I was trying to use yarn I already had, and I ran out of a couple colors, and I should have, I love the colors you ended up with, Nancy, and I have that yarn, but I think being newer to this, for me to have done it in a different weight yarn than
I think it would have been
crazy. Way too much. And then there was a bunch of stitches, really starting with those post stitches, where some of it I could do, but some of it I just was ripping it out. And I think I think she taught the class really well, even in the beginning, teaching you things that weren't going to apply to this project. And I was glad to have those. But with those post stitches, I feel like the camera needed to be way closer up on her hands to be like, here's where I'm going. And as that went further, those last set of stitches, I just kind of was, frustrated, and I had been feeling so good about what I was doing and learning. So then I was like, I actually went back and like did second squares of some of the ones I liked earlier. Cause I was like, I liked doing those. They look really cool. That was fun. And I did watch her suggestion for how to seam things up, because I really want to learn how to do that differently. So I'll get there. But I do think as a beginner, I would say some of those harder stitches were frustrating enough to kind of
yeah, it really progresses from like a beginner level, and there's great instruction, and then all of a sudden it's like you're at advanced stitches, and I just feel like there's an imbalance there, and an expectation that I don't think most people would meet, because you would get frustrated. And
and I did. So I wasn't able to finish it. I think I will. Well, it just depends what kind of yarn I can drum up. I should have just gotten fun colors like she had, and that would have motivated me more. But I also was in this place of wanting to really use what I had in front of me. So
and we've been trying with these daily challenges to really use what we have, and to do them. But I do. I had a thought and then I lost it.
Well, one thing I was going to say, it's not always about having to have the finished project anyway. I mean, a lot of the challenge is just like, experience, working through it, and giving your time to that for a period of period of time to focus on that craft and learning those things. So
I do have mixed feelings, because I do agree with what you guys are saying of like, I do feel like this is actually more of an intermediate to advanced project. It does start out really, really beginner friendly, and then it just ramps up the difficulty as you get to like day 20 and on. Is just, I think doing these squares would be more realistic if you spaced it out over like 2 or 3 months, rather than trying to do a square every day, especially for the later stuff. And I don't know how to market this, but I think that this project would actually be perfect for advanced crocheters. Like, I don't think, because, you hear like sampler, and that kind of has, for a lot of crafters and folks that have already been crafting, that idea of like, oh, this is only for beginners. Or like, this is something, it's like an introductory course. This is definitely something that would be applicable to somebody who's been a long time crocheter, and would actually be a lot more fun the more experience you have, I think.
Oh yeah. I think we could talk about samplers and how they are useful. It just kind of reminds me of like teaching yoga. Okay, so let's just go there for a second. Like, people who've been practicing for many, many years, it's still great to focus on your foundational classes. And it's just the same thing with being advanced. Is like, for me, it was a great project, because I've never really taken the time to do all those stitches like that and to learn it. And I do agree that this was more, I think this was a great project for somebody who is more advanced, who has some experience. It's like, oh yeah, I've done some of these stitches before, but it was still definitely challenging. And it clears your mind of like, samplers are like less thought, less, emotion to doing a project, but yet you get to practice your skills. And you often have this like cool thing that you created at the end, without having to go.
Well, I think, I would say samplers, I think, are really useful. It's twofold. I mean, for no matter your experience level, like, you get the practice of doing stitches that maybe you're familiar with, but you haven't done in a long time. Or some harder stitches, like I'm thinking of embroidery samplers, but also this one, it is exactly a sampler. But then once you finish the product, you can turn it into something, but it's also a guide. Like, wait, what's that stitch again? What does that stitch look like? And now you have this array of things to remind you. Or you could look at it and be like, wait, I really like that. I want to do something in that stitch. So I think that this is useful in this way.
Yeah, this was something that I actually learned a little bit about myself with this. I have ADHD, and kind of always said to myself of like, if I can't see it, it doesn't exist. So like I have a tendency to forget things that I can't immediately visually see and are not like present for me, which, you know, becomes a problem when I'm like putting all my crafting stuff in drawers of like, I forget what I have because I can't see it. This, I realized when I finished it, would be enormously beneficial to projects that I'm working in the future, because I'm going to hang it on my wall and I'll actually be able to see it. And it will visually remind me I have more options than what I think I do. So a lot of times, especially with embroidery and crochet, I fall back on my basics. I'm only really doing like half double crochet is my favorite stitch. So I do single crochet or half double crochet almost all the time, maybe double crochet sometimes. So I don't really vary the things that I'm doing a lot because I forget what I can do. So I feel like this is going to be really helpful for me to remember what I actually can do instead of just falling back on the things that I'm comfortable with. And that I think will help me grow as a crocheter. So that was an interesting internal dialogue that I was having with myself as I was finishing the project.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, that's
yeah. Also says to me that I can do Afghans. They just have to be squares.
I know. Well, this did inspire me. I was like, I like doing little squares. So, you know, there's my blanket. Although I don't want to end up with a pile of squares that I don't motivate to take the next step.
That's there. Yeah, no, I did think about that if there would be points, but I jump around in projects and I do finish things eventually, but there are some things that do sit as works in progress longer than others.
Yeah. My 11-year Afghan. So.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like there's at least one Afghan.
I feel terrible. It's like it's February 1st and I would glance at it and I'm like, all I have to do is like 2 more rows of a border and that thing would be done. But I had to focus on this project. And I was like, I want to finish this. I want to, for once, finish one of these things. I don't know, just.
Yeah, no.
Because otherwise, there's like that clutter. Like we were sort of talking the other day about like the clutter in your mind when you have unfinished things. So.
Well, I had to realize with this one that I wasn't going to finish it and that it very much had to fall into that process, not product camp for me. And it really was. I mean, I learned a lot. I learned that like some crochet stitches that look complex are not complex, and I can do them and they're fun to do. And I like crocheting, you know, I want to do more of it. So for me, like, even if I don't do anything with these squares, I have to, like, I did get a lot out of it in a process sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I did too. It just, I also, it was a fun exercise because I haven't been this frustrated with a project in a long time. A lot of my frustration comes from knitting where I'm just, you know, getting overconfident and not slowing down and paying attention, not putting in lifelines. This was a different kind of frustration of like, I'm hitting a point of realizing I read through instructions way too fast. That it would really help for me to like pump the brakes, not get so excited, and actually read things before I fly into a project. And
I totally share that because, especially because I'd be like, oh, I'm familiar with this stitch. I've done this before. And I was like, oh man, I totally did not. Yeah,
it's longtime crafter arrogance on my part, I think, of like, I've got this. I'm totally good. I am not. I am not okay.
I can't remember which one it was, but one of the stitches towards like the middle to the end. And I was just like, oh yeah, I got to slow down and read and just take a moment. Yeah, always read the instructions. Pump the brakes. That's great. I should embroider that on a pillow.
Yes, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Add that to the list of projects.
I just want to kind of maybe wrap up with like, what is your most favorite and least favorite stitch from this?
I'm glad I have this in front of me now.
I mean, it can be difficult to choose, but
I think I liked the bobble. Is it the bobble where you do like 5 in one and then go through it? And yeah, I like the bobble better than the popcorn. But I've seen that in like blankets just of that, and I just didn't know that it was as simple as it was. So
Yeah,
it has a nice rhythm to work as well.
Yeah, like I could just get into the zone of doing that one, I think. So
I really love the way the spike stitch looks. With the, because I did the spike stitch where it's uneven, so it looks like a zigzag. That one was one of my favorites. And I really like the way that the star stitch looks. And then moss is still my favorite of, I've got a lot of favorites with these. The ones that are my least favorite though, that diamond stitch.
Oh, I liked that one.
It's gorgeous finished. I look at it and I just think I hate you.
Oh,
you're the worst.
I have to see the one I hate. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you finish your stitches.
Yeah, the basket weave was frustrating. But it was doable after I slowed down and actually read the instructions. The herringbone, so the diamond and the herringbone, I think, are my least favorite for different reasons. The herringbone was really frustrating to work because it is very slow.
Yes.
And
I don't think it feel like it's not worth it.
Yeah. I kind of struggle with that too, of me looking at it. I was like, is it worth the time that I spent on this? I don't know. I may have to work it just a little bit more to actually really decide of like, is it worth it? So yeah, those are mine.
I think I liked probably the moss stitch.
I really loved that one too. Yeah. And I love the way it looked.
Yeah.
That one I think is the closest to knitting that I've ever seen a crochet stitch get.
Yeah.
That was really fun.
That's the one thing. Crochet is usually so bumpy and lumpy, and
that really did look like moss stitch and knitting. So, or not even moss stitch and knitting, but it looked like a knit fabric.
It does. Yeah. How about you, Lucy? Most and least?
Oh, the most I think was the bobble.
Oh, sorry, you already did that. I'm sorry.
Yeah. The least, I don't know. Whatever the one was that you just showed was zigzag, where you go down into
the herringbone.
Stitch. No, not the herringbone, a different one.
Spike stitch.
Yeah, the spike stitch.
That one.
Yeah. I got frustrated with that one because it just mine didn't look good, and so. But
yeah, I get that.
I don't love that stitch either. I don't like the way the density of the fabric is, and I don't know. Yeah.
I did have a hard time with that one getting the tension right for dropping down.
I had a really hard time with the tension.
So that was one of the ones. There were actually several of them that I did really struggle with tension, and I had always kind of prided myself of like, I've got good tension with crochet. My stitches all really turn out even, but like the herringbone, you can see that I was kind of all over the place. The puff stitch, my tension was all over the place, and the spike stitch. So I do, but I like that with the finished product of I can see the ones that I struggled with, and I can see the ones that I didn't come as naturally. So.
Yeah. Well, and that's the great thing with the sampler. And now you've got some gauge samples, and if you were to ever use it in a project, you kind of have that experience of knowing how to regulate yourself when you're working in those. Yeah. And
I did take extensive notes the whole time because there were a lot of squares that I had to crochet. I had to cast on different numbers than she did. I had to try it 3 or 4 times before I got the right gauge.
I'm going to just correct that it's not casting on. But
oh, sorry. But I had to. I had to do the foundation chain for that. I had to regulate that a lot. So I had to take really good notes on how much I was chaining at the beginning and how it was different from hers. But yeah,
right.
Really happy.
Well, so I guess we're like a 50-50 on this one. It was a good challenge, but be prepared to either be frustrated or come with experience.
and be nice to yourself. If it takes you 2 or 3 months or longer, it's okay, because this is a lot to do a single square a day, especially later in the month. It's hard. So challenge is fun. So thank you guys for joining us for our wrap-up video for our crochet sampler with Twinkie Chan, hosted on Creativebug. To remind everyone, Creativebug is free with your Ann Arbor District Library library card. Head over to our website at aadl.org under the Services tab. It'll be in there with the resources. And you just have to create an account, log in through our website, and it'll get you right there. There's lots of different types of projects. This is the third or fourth one of these that we've done, and we're going to continue to do these types of review videos. We will see you guys in a couple weeks. The next one that we're going to be doing is a art book challenge with, is it Faith Hale or Faith?
Faith Hale, yeah.
Faith Hale, thank you. So that will be our next Creativebug challenge. And we will see you in a couple weeks with our first video going through the first half of the month. In the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy. Don't forget to love each other. Bye, everyone.